Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige and this is my open book. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite book couples because I am fully convinced that these people are meant to last the test of time. Like, their love story is forever. I think they're soulmates. I think they're meant to be together. Nothing could keep them apart. Them falling in love was just destiny and meant to happen no matter what. So, grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's chat about my favorite soulmates. First up, we have A Worthy Opponent by Katie Robert. This is part of her Wicked Villains series, and it's kind of like Disney retellings in a way. So this one is a Peter Pan retelling, and the male main character is Hook, and the female main character is Tink. Now, what I love about this is it's not like the villain gets the girl, because even though Hook in this book is not exactly like a good guy by any means, Peter Pan is actually the villain in this scenario. So Tink used to be with Peter back in the day, but he was awful to her. So she finally escaped that relationship, and it was really hard for her to do because Peter was in charge of, you know, the town that she was a part of. So it was like really hard for her to leave. She got out of it. And she actually works in a sex club. So this is part of a series. In the first book, it kind of explains it more. In this world, Hades owns a sex club that kind of like is a safe space for all these different lands to meet and do political business in, things like that. Well, Hook and Tink strike up a deal together because Hook and Tink both want revenge on Peter. And Hook is going to use Tink in order to get it accomplished. So they kind of go into like a marriage of convenience kind of thing, and Tink is not exactly on board at first, but then she realizes like this could be revenge for her too, to kind of get vindication for how Peter screwed her over in the past. So they end up being on the same side. Now, Tink and Hook haven't exactly been like the best of friends in the past either. Like I said, Hook is not exactly a good guy. So she does have some animosity towards him. So at first it feels like it's going to be enemies to lovers, but you learn very quickly that Hook definitely has a soft spot for Tink and vice versa. And the way their relationship develops is just so surprising, but also like comforting. I don't know how to explain it. Now, kink is a big part of the storyline in this. Like I said, it kind of revolves around a sex club. So obviously, like, part of their relationship development happens during the sex scenes, but I think that Katie Robert does it in such a great way to where it's not like cheesy or sleazy in any way. Like, it honestly just helps you see how close they are and just how like their souls are just like meant to be. Like, you're just fully convinced throughout the whole story that like they are inevitable and they're gonna happen no matter what. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And like I said, this one kind of snuck up on me because with the series that this book is a part of, like I said, it's mostly focused on the sex club environment. So you don't exactly go into it thinking like, oh, I'm gonna find like soulmates that, you know, where their hearts can't be apart. You know, like that's not what I was expecting going into this, but Katie Robert did that. So I highly recommend this. The rest of the series is also really, really good, especially like for my fellow Disney adults. I think it gives like a fun spin on it. Next up, we have a mafia romance. This is Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geisinger. And this one might be a little controversial, but I think that's what I love about it. So mafia romances usually are like arranged marriages, so it's like not really a soulmate kind of vibe, right? It's more like, oh, now that I'm stuck with you, like, I guess I'll develop feelings for you kind of thing, right? But I honestly don't feel that way with this couple at all. One, they actually see each other at a bar before they even know each other's intentions, and there's definitely like a spark between them. It definitely develops more as soon as they meet, even though it's not exactly for good circumstances. So the storyline here is he's actually sent to kill her because he's trying to collect a debt from her fiance. So she was engaged, but her fiance disappeared, I think like 5 years ago. She has no idea what happened to him. Like, he's kind of presumed dead, but they also can't officially say that. So she's kind of like in limbo. And, you know, it's like, should I get over him or should I like hold out for him? She's still kind of in that in between. So obviously your first instinct is to, you know, feel sorry for her and want her to be able to get her fiance back. But as the story goes on, you kind of learn that like Clearly her fiance went missing because she was meant to be with Cage. Like, I'm fully convinced these two were meant to be together, and I'm one of those people that believes everything happens for a reason, and this book is a reason why I think that. Like I said, her losing her fiance should be like a terrible, tragic thing, but in this story, like, it makes sense. You're just like, oh yeah, duh, like she had to lose that fiance in order for her to meet Cage because they're the ones that are supposed to be in love. I know that sounds harsh, but trust me, when you read it, it totally makes sense. Especially with all the twists and turns that you find out in this book about what happened to her fiance. Yeah, it's good. It's good. And what I love about their relationship too is I feel like she wasn't really able to be her true self before meeting Cage, and I feel like Cage like brings out like her true essence and like a side of her that she didn't really let out before meeting him, and that's one thing I love the most about their relationship. Also, they go through like some crazy shit and they're able to survive it and come out on the other side, which I think is a true test for the success of a love story, and I think that J.T. Geisinger totally did that here. Next up, this one's a little bit more tame. This is Old Fashioned by Candy Steiner, and this is part of a series. It's actually the final book in the series, but it ended up being my favorite. They end up working together because he is the football coach at this high school in a small town, and then she is kind of like back in her profession again after years away from it. So she went to school to be like a physical therapist, like sports medicine kind of thing, like for sports teams. So, but she couldn't really do that because she ended up getting pregnant and marrying her high school sweetheart, and he was kind of the type that would like not force her per se, but like strongly encouraged her to give up her career to be a stay-at-home mom. So that's what she did. And you know, at first their relationship was fine, but the relationship does kind of take a darker turn. So, you know, just kind of keep that in mind as a trigger warning going into it. Her ex-husband, not a great guy. But she's finally trying to start over, like make a new life for herself, and she's trying to go back into the career that she's always wanted to do. So she finally does that. At first, she kind of butts heads with the coach because he's like, who are you? Why are you coming here? I don't even know like what kind of experience you have. And of course, like being a female in the sports industry is always a way that you get underestimated. So he was obviously worried like, oh, I have an attractive female, like my players are going to be distracted by her and she's not going to be able to do anything. They're all gonna, you know, not be able to do their jobs because of her. So he's kind of a jerk to her at the beginning, but trust me, hold out for him. It's worth it. Not only does he learn about her, respect her in her profession, value her at the workplace, but he learns about her past, and he's super supportive. He meets her daughter, and her daughter is obsessed with football, and he even like gives her daughter football lessons and helps coach her so that she can be on a football team herself, which is so sweet. I loved it. I just thought that was like a great full circle moment for him because like I said, at the beginning he was totally judging her for being a female in the sports industry, but he came full circle and realized that, you know, that's not the way that he should view it, and that he was able to help her daughter, you know, like make a name for herself in football as well, which I really loved that part of the story. And, you know, the female main character is going through a really hard time, and, you know, she is trying to be independent, but at the same time, like, it's just so nice to have somebody in your corner, and he definitely does that for her. And I just thought that their relationship was great, and I could totally see them lasting way past when this book ended. And I think that's something that's hard to do, especially when you have someone who's like already had an unsuccessful relationship, and you have the guy who hasn't really been in a relationship that was successful either. So like the odds are stacked against them, but with the connection that they have and just the way that they really support each other is, you know, it's undeniable that they are meant to last. Next up is Rebel Air by Jane Diamond. I've talked about this book on my channel before, and this one is interesting. So it's kind of like childhood friends to lovers, but also like they're kind of like enemies in the current timeline. So basically they grew up together, and when they were younger, he made her sign like a marriage contract saying like, if neither of us are married by this age, then we'll just get married, right? One of those things. But she obviously didn't take it seriously, and they kind of drifted apart, and he's kind of like he's in a motorcycle club now. His dad is like a mafia king. Like, he's definitely like the bad boy type, and that's not what she's about. So she's basically written that off. They've drifted apart. It's been years, it's been decades. Like, she's over it, right? Well, she ends up getting proposed to by this other guy, and he flips out. And at first, you're not rooting for them. I will be honest. At first, you're like, I don't even understand why he's like bringing up all this old history. Like, why is he doing this? It doesn't make any sense. And he like sucks her into the like the mafia thing that his dad is trying to do. And you know, it's just like, is she really worth all that drama? Is he really worth all that drama? But it really pays off. And I don't know, I really think, like, I know it's really cheesy, but the fact that they had that marriage contract when they were kids, I feel like that was like a prophecy of some kind. And once you like see them interact and you see the way that he is like so protective of her, and you see like, you know, how she's like really been missing out on a lot of things, and she really does need someone like him in her life, even though she didn't want to admit it at first. And it's just great to see them like reconnect, and to, you know, realize that their feelings for each other are valid and they're allowed to feel those things. And yeah, it becomes more real, and I'm totally a believer in their love story. Next up we have Pucking Around by Emily Rath, with the bonus of the prequel that comes before this. It's a novella called That One Night. So this is actually about a foursome, and it's like a poly relationship, right? So in the prequel, That One Night, you have Rachel and Jake, and they have a one-night stand, and you're convinced like they're meant to be together and they're soulmates, just those two, right? But at the same time, like, you do kind of feel like there's more to it, okay? So I was already convinced about those two being soulmates after just the novella, okay? That was kind of like an extended prologue for Pucking Around, okay? Now in Pucking Around, not only do you have her reconnecting with Jake, which, like, yes, finally, they deserve to be together, but you also have Jake and his best friend Caleb, which then you kind of realize, like, wait, like, are they soulmates too? Like, they're kind of meant to be together. And then you also see like Rachel and Caleb interact, and you're like, oh my god, I think they're meant to be together too. Like, doesn't make any sense. You're already convinced that Jake and Rachel should be together. Then when she reconnects with Jake, she finds out that she's going to be working for his hockey team, and his best friend Caleb is the equipment manager for the hockey team. So like, they start to kind of have a thing, okay? And then separately, Rachel is also forming a close bond with a different hockey player that she's helping to kind of like rehabilitate an injury with, and his name is Ilmari, and they have a really strong connection too. And you're just like, oh my god, like, I want all of you to be together. But in most romance books, that's not possible, because they fit into the, you know, the box of monogamy, one guy, one girl, and that's it, right? Well, Emily Rath said, I don't care about the box. We're breaking the box, and I'm gonna make all four of them be together. And it's just so beautiful, the way that their personalities mesh. And they do butt heads. It's not like it's all rainbows and butterflies. Like, they do kind of clash at some points, but it's interesting to see how they're able to like adjust the relationship dynamic to fit all four of them being together in a poly relationship. And it's just beautiful, and I love how unique their dynamic is too. Like, I've never read anything like this, and that's saying a lot, because I read a lot of romance books. And like I said, it's not just that it's a poly romance, because I've read a bunch of those too, but I've never read a poly romance like this one. This one totally takes the cake, and I'm fully convinced that these four will be together forever. They were meant to be, and I'm convinced that this hockey team was created to bring these souls together, because they are all soulmates. Trust me. Next we have Forever and Ever by Lucy Score. Now, I already rave about her other books in the Knock 'Em Out series, which I think they're also soulmates. I'm probably gonna have to do a part 2 of this video, because I'm only putting 10 books on the list today, but I feel like I could probably do another one with 10 more. Anyway, Forever and Ever. I believe the tagline of this book is like, he wasn't supposed to fall for her because she was his boss's daughter, his brother's ex, and his ex-wife is also her best friend. Yeah, and they're from the same small town, and clearly, like, it's one of those really small towns where, like, everybody knows everybody, so he wasn't supposed to fall for her, but their love story was totally inevitable, and I fully believe that 100%. So in this one, she comes back to the small town after years of living in the city, and no one knows why she's back. And at first they definitely butt heads because you could tell they have a lot of history together, and he's definitely like the grumpy type, and he's a little bit mad at first, like, what are you doing back here? And she's being like super secretive and won't tell him anything, and he just gets really pissed off about it. But you could tell that he also really cares about her, and he, you know, he feels this connection to her, and he feels like, some people this isn't a good thing, but obviously, like, in some relationships it makes sense. It's almost like he knows that, like, he owns part of her in a way, like she belongs to him, and he like fully knows that, even though they're not together romantically. I don't know how to explain it. Obviously, in the wrong context, that could sound really toxic, but I think you guys know what I mean. Like, there are just some people in life, when you meet them, you just know, like, that's my person, right? Like, I will do whatever it takes to protect them and to make sure that they're happy, even if you're not with them romantically. And they totally have had that their entire lives. So I think that really leads into why they make such a great romantic relationship too, because, like I said, it's not like they were friendly when they were kids. It's not really what it was. But you could just tell that, like, they were like there for each other. Like, she would look out for him, he would look out for her, and it was just beautiful to see, like, all their history, and it almost seemed like things were working against them at times, but after all this time, they were finally able to overcome it and allow themselves to be together without any obstacles, and it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. I love them together. I think they're great. Lucy Score knows how to write a strong connection between her two main characters, and this one totally matches that. Then we have Anything Ray Touches by Holly Cass. This is like in my top like 3 or 5 books of the year for sure. This one is super emotional, so these characters do have a history together. You guys know I'm biased for that. But I truly believe that these two are soulmates for 2 reasons. One, I think they were meant to be together, and unfortunately the thing that brought them together was a very tragic event. But again, this is one of those instances where I think everything happens for a reason, and I think that they both went through that tragic event together because it was something that would bring them together in the end. The tragic event that they went through happened when they were in high school together, and he also kind of had a connection with her sister. So at first, when they reconnect in the present time, she kind of feels guilty about that. But again, I think it makes sense. I think that he was supposed to like have a connection with his sister because that was something that would bring him closer to Ray. You know what I mean? So that's the one reason why I think they're soulmates, is because, like, I think they were meant to be together, and the universe like made these events happen to ensure that they would connect. The other reason why I think they're meant to be together is because I think they just balance each other out so well, and they understand each other like nobody else can. Like, I think this is the kind of couple where if something happened to one of them, they would not be able to remarry. Like, it's them and that's it, like one and done. They're definitely that kind of couple in my opinion. Like I said, they went through the tragic event together, so they really understand each other. They both struggled with addiction at times, and they both had to go to like rehab and AA, you know, things like that. So obviously they know what it's like, but they also balance each other out because even though they went through the same things, they responded to it in such different ways. So I think that they are like the yin and yang that they both need for sure. And I highly recommend this one if you haven't read it yet. This one does not get enough love in my opinion. Like I said, this is like in my top tier list of books of all time, and their connection is the main reason why. Then we have Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This is another instance where I think that their personalities balance each other out. So this is an opposites attract, grumpy sunshine. She's a city girl, he's a small town boy. They have some animosity towards each other at the beginning, so you don't think they're going to work well together at all in the beginning. But once they finally admit their feelings for each other and allow that side to come out, you could tell that their chemistry is just so strong, and it's like they really need each other. Like, even when they don't want to admit it, like, they need each other. Their lives would not be complete if they didn't have the other person with them at all times. I fully believe that. And what I love about K.A. Tucker is she takes it a step further. So not only does she do, you know, the classic like third act breakup in the book, and then they end up having their happily ever after, then like a bonus epilogue to show they get married or something or whatever. No, she takes it a step further. She actually did a novella and another novel about this same couple, and I think that that helped a lot, because I think if she didn't do those extra 2 books, someone could argue that this couple would not last the test of time because of that animosity, the opposites attract, and the issues that they had. Like, you might be inclined to think, oh, if they have a problem again, like, they're not gonna last. But K.A. Tucker shows you that they go through other issues, like really hard things in their relationship in the future after their happily ever after, and things that would break other couples apart brought them closer together. And I love that she did that, because it just really drives home the message of they are soulmates, 100%. Okay, and you know, I couldn't do a list video without including something by A.L. Jackson. She has a lot of books, in my opinion, where the characters are soulmates, but I just picked one for this video. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna do a part 2. So for this video, we're gonna talk about Lead Me Home by A.L. Jackson. And this is a friends to lovers, and they have history together. Now, again, I think that the history that they have together and the thing that they went through is another example where I think those things happen so they could be together in the future. So the reason why they become friends is because she actually becomes really close friends with his sister, and he kind of like takes her under his wing as well. And he's a few years older, but they're all really close. Like, they're the 3 musketeers, are together all the time. There is something really tragic that happens 14 years in the past with his sister and her best friend, and he kind of lets that drive a wedge between them, and it's more so because he doesn't think that he deserves to be happy without his sister. They had to go through that in order for their relationship to work. It's not just a journey of them like finding each other again, it's a journey of like him allowing himself to be happy, and he does that by realizing how much he wants her to be happy. So she ends up going through some new drama that kind of gets him back in her life again, because he thinks that she's in danger. So his protective side comes out, definitely shows their strong connection is still there even after all this time. And it's just one of those things, like, you know, in like the romance movies where the guy or the girl, they're like, oh, it was never about them, it was always you, it's always been you. Like, that's this couple for me. Like, it's always been them. Like, everyone knew they were gonna end up together, everyone knew they had feelings for each other. They were just in denial and had to go through some time separately in order to come back together in the end. And I'm fully convinced that they will stand the test of time now, because they showed that their love can survive the hardest of things and the longest of distances, and the amount of time that already passed. They're still together and the love never died. And last one on this list is actually a new edition. I just finished reading this book today. This is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This is a small town cowboy cowgirl romance. So she is a horse rider, and she's been successful in barrel racing. She left her small town to pursue that dream. Well, recently she got thrown off of her horse, and it was in a very scary way. And her mother actually died when she was only like 1 year old from a riding accident. So this is like really taking a toll on her. Obviously she's fallen off her horse before, you know, this isn't the first time, but something about this particular event really scared her. Just with how severe it was and how she like wasn't prepared for it, didn't handle it well. So she kind of goes through a dark time, ends everything, goes back to her small town to be with her family and her best friend. When she shows up, she is reunited with Luke. Now, Luke is her brother's best friend, and he was kind of like part of her family as well growing up, because he had a really bad home life. His mom had him from a one-night stand, it sounded like. So his stepfather doesn't want anything to do with him, doesn't want him in the house, doesn't want to see his face, doesn't want his mom to be with him at all. So he basically gets shunned from his home and from his family. So he thankfully gets taken under the wing of his best friend, who is the brother of the female main character. So that's how they know each other. And she basically, like, just like in any situation, I think, where, you know, you have like an older brother's best friend, she kind of had a crush on him at some point, but she basically has a negative feeling towards him because he would like pick on her, or, you know, always like scare boys away, or, you know, prank her, be annoying, whatever, right? And he kind of feels the same way about her, like, oh, she's just the annoying little sister. But when they're reunited, they discover that they don't know as much about each other as they thought they did, and they really start to, you know, like really learn about each other. They just spend time together and they just talk. And one of the things that brings them closer together is he sees that she's scared to get back on a horse again. And she kept her accident a secret from her friends and her family, so he's the only one that knows, and he like helps her, you know, come down from a panic attack, and he's there for her, and he actually helps her get back into riding her horse. So not only do they bond over the conversations that they're having about learning each other and their past, but he also helps her through a really dark time. I don't know, just the connection they have is so beautiful. And again, this is one of those instances where like I think that he became friends with her brother because they were honestly meant to be together, and this was the way that the universe decided to bring these two souls together to make sure that they would have that connection and that chemistry. And it took a while until they were, you know, in their 20s and 30s to get there, but it's totally worth it. I'm convinced that they are going to stand the test of time. One of the lines from that book that really drove it home for me is her best friend is talking to her about how she feels about her getting with this guy. And she's like, no, like most love stories are like hot fire, but then they burn out quick. Your love story with him is slow and steady. Like it's a slow burn and it will last. And I totally feel that. And that's the kind of love story that I like to read. I don't like the insta love, hot and heavy, and then it's over. No, I want something that will stand the test of time. Obviously, like when they first start talking, like they're not sure if they should even like admit their feelings for each other because of the history they have, because of how close he is with her brother. They end up becoming public with their love story anyway, even though they know that people are going to be upset about it and it could ruin friendships or family relationships. They don't care because they know that they cannot live without the other person anymore. And I'm really happy that I read this one. I wasn't expecting such a strong love connection from this one because I only heard people talk about, oh, this one has great dirty talk and great sex scenes. So I just thought it would be, you know, kind of like an Elsie Silver book, right? But listen, this love connection is so strong and so deep. You have to read this immediately. All right, that's gonna be it for today's video. Leave a comment down below telling me what is the last book that you read that you're convinced had soulmates in it. Give this video a like and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my future videos. And I'll see you next week with another one. Bye.